What programs and practices would fall under the humanistic school of thought? As we've seen, different philosophies follow different aspects of things. They look at issues and things from their perspective, and so would do the humanistic individuals. So the first thing they would look at is an individualized instruction process. In other words, looking at one kid. What does this kid need? What is unique about this kid? This would lead to an understanding of what do you want to become? What are you good at? And trying to do that career building stuff from the very start. Instead of the child saying, my mother, my father, my uncle, my grandparents want me to be a doctor. Okay, that's what they want you to be. What do you want to be? That's more important. And I think today we should inform parents, let students do and become what they are good at, not at what we would want them to be. Just because I'm a doctor, why should my child also become a doctor? He may or she may be good at something totally different and may make a very successful life in that particular career or area of working. So looking at what the individual talents and potentials and capabilities of students is and working with those potentials and developing those potentials in our students to the fullest is what the humanistic school of thought would recommend. Learning projects. Let students do projects. Get them involved. Projects are hands-on things. Now, a project is not make a poster. That's not a project. Make a model. That's not a project. A project is when you take a field of study and you do something with it. You go and you find out, you analyze, you survey, you investigate, you synthesize, you put things together, you break things down. That is what should happen if you're doing learning projects. Learning projects are not making these horrible two-dimensional posters. And I've seen them, I'm sure you've seen them too. You see these always in science fairs and stuff like that. That has to change. A project is a project. If you want a poster, do a poster competition. But don't call it a learning project, because you really learn nothing by making a poster. Being involved in a project, trying to get the methodology, the approach, the analysis and all that, and getting to the finding, and then making recommendations, suggestions, identify how the project went, was it as good as you thought, how it can be improved, that generates learning. Sensitivity training. This is life in the 21st century, and human beings are sensitive people. How do you understand the sensitivity level of individuals? Sometimes a very normal individual could blow up on a very minor point or issue unexpectedly. What does that mean? Is that person always like that? Was something really went beyond the frustration level of this individual for him to act that way? That kind of sensitivity training is important. How do we sensitize young people to other individuals? Just because another individual doesn't think like me, doesn't behave like me, doesn't understand like me, doesn't want to do things like me, does not mean I'm not your friend, I'm insensitized to you, I couldn't care what happens to you. No. On the contrary, when two opposite kinds of people meet, I think more sensitization happens then, rather than people with common interests and commonalities. When you share too much in common, you are very alike. There's nothing unique, there's nothing great about you. But when you're opposites, you tend to be different. And that is when sensitization will set in. And as teachers, we must provide opportunities to our students to undergo sensitization. Sometimes it's okay to not agree with someone. Sometimes it's also okay to not have somebody else agree with you. Both situations are fine. If you can disagree with someone, someone else can disagree with you. Now, the first case can't be okay. I don't agree with you, that's fine. You don't agree with me, that's not fine. That can't happen. It has to be both ways. If I disagree, somebody else can disagree with me as well. That kind of understanding and that kind of exposure is important for young people to get today. And that is exactly what the humanistic school of thought would like to provide in their programs and practices. Teacher effectiveness training. A teacher is a teacher, great, but an effective teacher is a far better teacher. How do you bring teacher effectiveness into teaching? That's a skill. It's not a skill, actually. Teacher effectiveness are skills. You have to do many things that are different from what an ordinary teacher would do. How does one train? And the humanistic school of thought provides for this training because they see blaming the teacher as an easy thing to do. You did not do this lesson plan right. Why was your class so noisy today? You were not in control. It's very easy to blame the teacher. But what help can we afford? If you cannot provide help to the teacher, don't identify the teacher's weaknesses. Because without training, without help, the teacher, if she knew, would have done better in the first place. So being an effective teacher, and more than an effective teacher, being an inspiring teacher is the key to education. So how does one move from being a teacher to an effective teacher to an inspiring teacher? That journey is what the humanistic school of thought would like to see in their teachers. That move from one stage to the next to the next. Are you inspiring? Because as human beings, that's what we would like to do. We would like young people to say, you inspired me, I like you, you are my role model. In fact, today, our young people's role models are not teachers. We should be. We need to be in that inspiring mode to help students look at us teachers as role models. Active listening. A lot of times we are hearing, and hearing and listening are not the same things. Okay? We hear all sorts of noise and sound and words and dialogues. We hear a lot. We listen when we can participate in that dialogue, participate in the training, participate in the activity. We can make recommendations, suggestions, give our opinion. We can ask questions. Then we are listening. And active listening is a skill that young people in our classrooms need to learn. And so do many teachers.